Good morning. It was about this time 9 years ago I started working at Lumiere School. I had just gotten out of my parent-teacher conferences, and I was relaying a story to my peers. One of the parents came in, and I had to have a pretty serious conversation with them about how their student was struggling in my class. They weren't doing the homework, they weren't doing well in tests, they weren't paying attention in class, and I thought, should be pretty riveting information for Mom. She should care quite a big deal about this. And we get to the end of my spiel, and she just says, "It's just that you look like a baby." Now, in her defense, this is what I look like. And so this picture was taken shortly before I started working at LaLu, and I do think I did look slightly like a baby, maybe not fully accurate statement, but I was pretty young starting here at Lumiere, and over the past 9 years now, Lumiere has taught me a great deal about character, scholarship, and faith. And I want to share with you 3 pictures that sort of illustrate the principles I've learned from you guys at Lumiere, but also 3 significant people in my family. So I'll start off with Mrs. Lingle. By the way, I do always call her Mrs. Lingle. It's in our school contracts, we have to. Now, a slight warning before we start here, there will be a quiz at the end, so pay attention. I met Mrs. Lingle at college when we were both 18. Mrs. Lingle was a freshman and I was a sophomore. We were both on the track and field team. Mrs. Lingle was a pole vaulter. I was a middle distance runner. And her first day of practice, she was out at the pole vault pits, working out. I was running around the track wearing only short shorts and a hat that said "Awesome Dad" on it. And it was love at first sight, I'm sure, for her. We started dating that year later on. Contrary to what my hat might have indicated, Mrs. Lingle was my first kiss. She was, other than grandmas and things like that, she was my first kiss. And we were engaged by the time that we were 21 before starting here at Lumiere. And one of the first questions, one of the questions I always got early on in marriage was, "Don't you think you should have waited a little bit longer?" Not for the kiss, for the getting married part, but don't you wish you had waited? And my response has always been like, well, I could see how most people would have wanted to wait a little bit longer. Knowing what I know about psychology now, and your brain isn't really fully formed by the time you're 25, and Mrs. Lingle can attest to this. But from observing me, not her. But I looked at this time and I said, I met someone that I really cared about. I met someone that, more importantly, for long term, has made me a better person. And that brings me to my first point, and I'll read this to you, and I'll have you read it back to me. But a big, important part of character that I've learned from Mrs. Lingle is, I'll move back here for you guys from the front row, your companions craft your character. You guys say it back. Very good. It didn't sound too creepy, cultish. I always feel like at church when you read things out loud, it sounds kind of scary in this monotone voice, so it's a good job there. But yes, your companions craft your character, and by that what I mean is that during this formative time of my life, I was around someone pretty much constantly who made me a better person, someone that was way smarter than I am, way just more considerate of other people, more responsible, better looking, knew how to dress themselves, these sorts of things. And so it was important that I got to be around Mrs. Lingle during this time. And as we sort of continue in our marriage together, hopefully I'm helping her as well in some way. I'm not exactly sure how. But this is also true with my relationships with fellow staff members, faculty members, people that are significant in my life. The people you surround yourself with, and one of the reasons I love Lumiere is the people you surround yourself with impact who you become. Not 100%, this isn't a steadfast rule, but they tend to have a pretty strong influence on you over your life. And so I encourage you, and I think one of the great things about Lumiere as a student is that you surround yourselves with people that are going to make you better. The people that you're around, do they spend their time gossiping? Do they spend their time complaining? Do they spend their time trying to avoid work, avoid helping people, thinking of themselves? Or are they more constructive? And along those lines, are you the type of person that's going to be good for other people? Are you the kind of friend that's going to be good for your friends in the long run? And so work on your character. Work on your, for your friends' sake. Be a positive influence. If people are kind of being negative, try and change the situation to be positive. And people will appreciate that and grow from that. So your companions craft your character. Now, Mrs. Lingle and I were married for about 6 years. And then, sometime in December, I was asleep, taking a nap in the afternoon, about 3 or 4 o'clock. I'd finished classes. And she came up to our room and she woke me up. And I talked to my AP Psych class and she kind of woke me up in this, the deepest stages of sleep. There's delta waves going around in my head. And she wakes me up out of this sleep and I have just no idea what's going on. And she says, "I have a present for you." I said, "Oh, great." And so I go downstairs and I was hoping for some sort of like snack or I don't know what. But I open up this bag and I take out this hat. And it says, "World's Most Awesome Dad." And she says, "Do you know why I'm giving this to you?" I said, "Because of my hat in college." And she says, No, there's more. But I was taking a nap, I was asleep, I was kind of out of it. And so I reach into the bag and I pull out this thing that has like plus minus signs on it. And I had been doing a lot of work on a house that we had purchased recently, and I was just like, she's like, "Do you know what that is?" I'm like, "Is it like an electrical tester? Like, what is this thing?" And she says, "No, like, we're pregnant." And by the time, she was hoping to kind of say that with a like more excited tone, and it kind of was more of like, "We're pregnant, dummy," But so I just kind of like got up and sort of like half awake, kind of like hugged her and just like, "Oh, great," So once I fully woke up, I was a little bit, I was more interested in this news. And that brings me to my next picture here. Now, being a parent is really challenging. Being a parent is one of the most challenging things, or actually is the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life. And this is not, I'm not trying to sound depressing here, but, I used to sleep at night. I used to, I looked around the house and I was like, I've always felt like it was so difficult to keep the house clean when I was the one making a mess. Now it's like you go around the house, like you clean something up, and then immediately someone's just throwing things on the ground. And then there's what Susie's doing on top of that. But no, I mean, being a parent is very, very challenging. You don't sleep at night. You don't, you have to kind of think about what other people around you want. But being a parent is probably the most rewarding thing I've done in my life as well. And so I want to say is that great challenges lead to great rewards. You guys.
Great challenges lead to great rewards.
And so, all these things with lack of sleep, I keep coming back to that one, I don't know why, but lack of sleep, the change in your patterns, vacations, like you go on vacation, it's like like we were awake till 4 a.m, Susie's keeping us awake, crying or just wanting to play. But then there's all the other things about being a parent. The emotional roller coaster that comes when your child just even gives you a hug and leans in and squeezes you tightly. The fact that we're driving around in a car and Susie wants to sing, her favorite song to sing in the car is "Susie Loves Daddy," which is very, it's hard to get too upset at that moment. Or even this morning where we're driving around in the car and Susie takes a pretzel and breaks off like the small tiny bottom bow of the pretzel and then starts holding up to her head and act like she's talking on a phone. All the entertainment, but also all the things you learn about yourself in the process. Being a parent, you think like getting married, that's when you're going to learn the most about what love is and how to love someone. But actually being a parent is the experience that's taught me the most. What does it mean to love someone? Changing diapers, waking up in the middle of the night, to a crying child and comforting them and being patient with them. And so this process has been incredibly rewarding, both for the emotional connection with my child, but also for personal development. Now, I'm not encouraging you guys to go out and have a child tomorrow, but I would say that looking at scholarship, what are the ways that you're approaching challenge in your life? Are you pursuing challenges, or are you avoiding them? When you look at your class schedule, are you saying, well, I want the easiest schedule possible, and then taking mostly classes with me, or are you saying, well, I want to challenge myself. I want to try something different. Maybe this isn't a graduation requirement. Maybe I've already met my language requirement. Maybe I've already taken this class I enjoy, and the next level might be too difficult. But challenging yourself, reaching beyond your current comfort zone. Because those are going to be the times that you're going to have the biggest reward. You're going to learn the most about yourself. What you do with your free time. I think we all need free time. We all need to rest and relax. I'm not trying to make you stressed out. But what are you doing over your breaks? What are you doing over your summers? When you look at a job, are you looking for just the most mindless job that you can complete that's going to pay you, or are you looking for something that's going to be challenging and meaningful in the long run? So let's repeat the quote together here. Great challenges lead to great rewards. Now, the rewards of being a father to a daughter make me excited for the next challenge in my life. This is our son. I sure hope that actually ends up being true. It's always, I think he is our son, but being a boy, this is the next big challenge in our life. And to be honest, it's kind of strange. I wouldn't think after having one child you'd be kind of afraid of the next one. But I am somewhat nervous about being a father to a boy. Well, number one, we're no longer outnumbering our children. We can double team right now, but pretty soon it's going to be man to man. And then beyond that, we have to switch to zone. Did I get that right, Mr. Chamberlain? Is that okay? Good. But having that attention divided, boys and girls, it's just is it going to be different? Is there going to be a different connection that I feel with a child? I just started sleeping through the night somewhat, and I'm not really ready to let that go. Susie is just getting potty trained right now, and changing diapers is not something I'm looking forward to again. But more seriously, what is it? What if I don't know how to parent a son very well? Always in the back of my mind, my father passed away from brain cancer shortly after we were married, and when I look at think about my children, I think, well, what if I get brain cancer? What if I pass away and then I get sick or something happens? And so during these times, I find it comforting. The following quote: "We don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future." So it's a little bit longer, but I think you guys can make it through. Here, go ahead.
We don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future.
Now, I find this quote comforting for two reasons. First of all, I fully admit that bad things happen. I always kind of cringe when people say, well, no matter what, it's all going to be good in the end. Or, your life's going to be great. God knows the promises that he has for you. Everything's going to be awesome. And I think, well, there's a lot of people that's not the case. And so I don't like to make this blanket promise, but looking back on my life, I see the hard times I've gone through, the difficult challenges, and I've seen good come out of them, or at least something good come out of them. I wouldn't, if I could take it back, I wouldn't have my father pass away from brain cancer. That's not something I'm glad it happened. But I look at, the way it shaped relationships with the rest of my family. I look at the way that he impacted people in his life. I mean, he taught at a boarding school essentially for 40 years and made a huge impact on people. So getting to know those people that he had influenced at his memorial service, moving to Columbia, Missouri, and working at a school where he had worked for a few years and hearing stories of him. Now, these are all things I look back on and I see how God used these situations to shape me. I see how he used these situations to care for us. And even though it's challenging, it was a formative time in my life. But then secondly, reading this quote, I don't want it to be all focused on the negative either, is that your lives are very exciting. You can have a reason to be excited about the future. I look at my son, I can imagine the kids playing together, going on trips, and the just sort of the emotional high points as well that are going to happen in the future. And I think oftentimes we kind of focus on the negative. And I see this in your guys' lives too. When you think about college, when you think about your jobs, like, well, am I going to get a job that pays enough? Am I going to get into the college that I want to? Am I going to be successful in life? And I would encourage you to kind of slow down and think about, one, be excited about your life, but two, be thinking about what are the things I need to do today? What can I be faithful to today? And in Matthew 6, Jesus says, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will care for itself." I'm not saying procrastinate on your homework. I'm not saying leave off all those important plans you might have later on, but don't forget about today. Don't get caught up in the things that you can't control. When I look at you guys, I get so excited for your potential. I look back on what I was like in high school, and I think I would have definitely been the worst person at this school. I think looking at how mature most of you are, how well you care for one another, the way you connect with adults, the way that you are able to grasp material in your classes, even those of you who struggle in class. You're all incredibly bright. You're all just incredibly capable people. And so don't get caught up on just the negative things that are going on. Don't get caught up in anxiety, but say here's what I'm looking forward to. And when you get to college, looking forward to that next step. College is not a destination. It's not once you get into this college, everything will be good. But it's sort of looking forward to that next step in your life and being excited about it. So let's read this quote one more time. "We don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future." All right, quiz time. I'm going to show you a picture. And as a mass audience, every single one of you needs to say the correct quote. Ready? Yeah, so your companions craft your character. You'll notice that character, one of their cool things. Here we go. Okay, so your companions craft your character. Yeah, so great challenges lead to great rewards. Very good. Now here's the harder one. Very good, very good. That was the most recent one we learned, so good job. All right, would you please pray with me? Father, we thank you so much for all that you do. We thank you for the people you've brought into our lives. I thank you for each person in this community. I thank you for this school. Lord, I ask that you be working in our hearts, shaping us, teaching us to love each other well, to encourage each other, to become better. Lord, I thank you for the promise that you see us through the challenges in life. I ask that you'd be creating ambition in us to pursue great things. And Lord, I also thank you that we can place our hope in you and in the future, knowing that even though we can't plan what it holds, that we know that we can trust in you. I ask that you go before each person this day and bless them, and again, help us to love you well and love those around us well. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen. All right. Thank you very much.